All right, good afternoon. It's 12 o'clock and welcome to this week's Iowa Learning Farms webinar. I'm Matt Helmers with Iowa State University, the director of the Iowa Nutrient Research Center and a faculty affiliate with the Iowa Learning Farms, and really fortunate to be able to help moderate today. Really excited for this topic. One thing, as always, if you have questions, feel free to type those in the chat box and we'll get those to our presenters at the end of their talk. Our presenters today are Adam Schnieders and Justin Clark. Adam is a Water Quality Resource Coordinator with the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, and Justin Clark is a wildlife biologist with Iowa Department of Natural Resources. They're going to talk to us today about DNR cover crop seed production project. So really excited to see this. Adam and Justin, the virtual floor is all yours.
Awesome. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Okay, get this going. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to present. Appreciate it that the Iowa Learning Farms is willing to let us have the floor for a Wednesday Lunch and Learn. We presented a long time ago about what the work we're doing in the nutrient reduction strategy for wastewater treatment plants a few years ago. And that's kind of our main role in the nutrient reduction strategy, is working on the point source side of the ledger for nutrient reduction. But we also have some other aspects within the agency, being a large agency, where we can look to begin to use some of the practices of the nutrient reduction strategy into our work. So this is a kind of a story to talk about what we've been doing with this cover crop seed production project. The picture you see before you is our Prairie Lakes unit in Ruthven, where they're actually applying some rye seed in one of the areas with the seed we produce. So pretty cool shot with the aerial application there. So project drivers on this. So this is interesting because the last time Justin and I presented on this topic was in 2021, when there was just kind of an idea that we were kind of noodling, and we haven't talked much about the project for years. So it was kind of getting a lot of the slides updated and talking about the results. So it's been good to kind of see the progress as we put the slide deck together. So we're excited to share that with you. So as most know, the nutrient reduction strategy finalized in May of 2013 calls for that 45% reduction goal from point and non-point source for nitrogen and phosphorus. And so we were with the partnership and all the organizations working to reduce nutrients, we were looking at all the different areas within the DNR where we could potentially participate within the nutrient reduction strategy. And so this is where the cover crop project kind of came to fruition. So a little background on DNR land management. These numbers are a little dated, but they're probably still pretty accurate. For the DNR, we have the privilege of managing 500,000 acres of public land in parks, forests, preserves, and lakes and wildlife management areas. Of those acres, about 45,000 of those acres are in habitat management leases. There's about 541 of those. And of those leases, about 65% of those 29,000 acres roughly are in some form of row crop. And Justin has some good slides where it kind of shows how that's laid out in a wildlife management area as an example, as we transfer into more of the details of our story. And with the 20,000 acres of row crop, conservation's always been an element within those leases with the DNR row crop leases. So things like no-till, contour strip cropping, cover crops, food plots, a lot of different things have been added to those leases. So we've always had conservation as a part of this, but the opportunity was to potentially expand cover crop usage. And so a lot of the idea of the project came from just some of the conversations about could we do cover crop seed production on public ground? There was some exploration for potential private-public partnerships to see if that was going to be possible. They didn't necessarily pan out because it's not the ideal growing conditions for small grains in the state of Iowa. But from those conversations, we were able to build enough momentum to try it ourselves in a way. And so during that project, we worked with the Wildlife Bureau to say, hey, is this something we'd be interested in? And we learned from them that Justin Clark at Big Marsh was already interested in doing some work with triticale. And so from there, we did a study to see what it would take to cover all 29,000 acres in rye seed, to see what that would look like and take. And from there, that evolved into, well, let's try a pilot project just to see if we could actually produce this seed in some way, and see if it's going to be worthwhile to pursue. And so that started our first go around with it. And that's what we'll talk about, kind of that story and what we've learned over these last 4 full seasons. And we have our season 5 is in the ground. So right now, to date, we have 175 acres in production at the Big Marsh Wildlife Management Area, and then also at the Prairie Resource Center. Those are the 2 areas where we produce the seed. And then Justin will talk more about this, but how we've been working to improve how we've produced the seed, distribute it to all the different areas across the state, how we've tried to understand yields a little bit, and try to improve those. But one of the things that we're looking for is new unique lease opportunities where we might explore crop sharing, as opposed to doing our staff doing the work to produce this, and build the partnerships to see whether or not there could be a crop share opportunity. In fact, we're exploring one of those right now with 50 acres at our Red Rock area, to try a crop share to see if that might be something that as we move to the future. And speaking of the future, we are just ending a sub-award with a farmer-to-farmer grant with Practical Farmers of Iowa. We've had funding for 3 years to fund our production project, and it ends this month. We do have an extension to finish out this final growing season and be able to apply the seed that we do harvest. And so we were excited about that partnership. It really helped work to increase cover crop adoption amongst the DNR tenants, and then also the partners and cooperators and beyond. So Justin can share some of those experiences. And then using PFI's expertise and advice has been great for us to have a better idea of how we could, our seeding rates, and how we could go and try to improve production for the acres that we had. So it's been a great partnership with PFI. And so now we're at a spot, and this could be something for questions and discussion later, trying to figure out what is next for us in the future, as far as with this funding going dry now, what is our plans for the future? And that's something that we're trying to figure out as we transfer into 2025 and beyond. So those are some of the things that we're noodling right now. So I have one more slide here I just want to share. This is just our kind of our harvest results, and then Justin will dive into the details. So each one of these blocks here, you can see the different years: 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023. 2024 is to be determined yet. And then we have our totals for our 4 growing seasons. And so you can kind of see our bushels per acre yields for our production. And then you can also see where we produced it. So for example, on the 2020-21, you can see that we produced triticale and rye at the Big Marsh unit, and then the Prairie Resource Center was exclusively rye production. And so for that example, we had 121 acres in production where we produced 2,568 bushels with a kind of an average yield of 21.2 bushels per acre. So in total, we've produced about 11,630 bushels overall for the project so far. But we have 223 acres for 2024, so we'll know those numbers will go up as well. So gives you an idea of the scale we're talking about and what we've been able to achieve. And with that, I will shift it over to you, Justin.
All right. Thank you, Adam. Can you hear me fine?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. Here we go. So I'm Justin Clark, a wildlife biologist, and we manage public hunting lands or wildlife management areas. That's what I'm tasked with doing. So Big Marsh WMA is on your screen right now. You'll see about, for scale, that's about 3,000 acres of an 8,000 acre area that's spread out from the town of Dumont down to Highway 14 north of Parkersburg, Butler County, Iowa. So on our screen here, we have 71 acres. This is one of our first years of cover crop production, 2019. Before we had a grant, we ran a little pilot program here. So of the marsh proper, or what I call Big Marsh proper, this bottom corner is the main marsh, 1,200 acres of man-made marsh. Within the boundary that's highlighted, we farm about 700 acres with 3 different tenants, rent our ground through a habitat lease. The colored blocks are how we have interspersed our cover crop seed production fields. So they're all small fields, anywhere from 5 to 14 acres. So we have a lot of small fields intermingled with the rest of the habitat, which might be grasslands uplands, prairies, wetlands, floodplain, timber, and then kind of in the middle of the screen, there's a lot of fields that are divided with windrows, windbreaks, tree plantings that were historically put in. So the marsh is kind of what we call the marsh is a mosaic of habitat types all the way across it. And we find this really important because a lot of the game species like the broken up fields and the interspersion of agriculture with habitats. So I found it really important to me that I wanted to put small grains into production at various places around the wildlife management area to probably more than anything increase the nesting potential for ringneck pheasants and for the wild turkey that like to nest in proximity to these grasslands. And if we left them as rather corn or soybean acres, we're going to be very low potential, but I knew small grains could really boost the amount of pheasants and turkeys on the landscape. So next slide, Adam. So everything we have is a logistical nightmare for management. And the reason being is that equipment right there is the only part of the process we have to turn seed into grain to be utilized anywhere else. So we drilled the first year ourselves with this 10-foot Great Plains drill. We seed at a rate of about 115, 120 pounds per acre. I'm going to speak most specifically about winter triticale production because that's what I'm most familiar, even though we did grow cereal rye. So we drilled on 7.5-inch rows. Adam came and helped us. We used our own staff time the first year. The second year, when we were comfortable with how everything was working, we followed our tenants' soybean fields and then paid a private contractor to come in with his drill, which was a slightly larger John Deere drill. And he planted everything on 7.5-inch rows, same seeding rate. It cut us out of the loop, which was always a goal as we started fully integrated and then kept pulling back DNR staff time and involvement into like a coordinating role and let the local experts do what they're good at. So as we progress through my slide, you'll find a common trend of working with cooperators, neighbors, and farmers who are able to help us facilitate this entire program. Next one, please, Adam. Okay, so we have in each hand on the left is a rye hull, and in the right hand side is a winter triticale. The reason that we grow both is that Bill was set up to grow both at the Prairie Resource Center, and so was I. That's a total lie. We did that because I liked winter triticale for two reasons. One, it was kind of expensive to buy, and I'm cheap, so I wanted to grow winter triticale because my experience was it grew really well in wet ground. The reason we grew rye is it was readily available. The seed cleaners knew how to deal with it. The farmers knew how to deal with it. And we knew we would have an outlet to my colleagues who were actually going to utilize the seed for cover crops. So the winter triticale kind of had some demand, like I say, and I still firmly believe that it handles wet soil pretty well. So we would use triticale to combat an issue we have of reed canary grass, which we have a lot of on our wildlife management areas because we have a lot of transitional ground. It's too dry to really grow prairie, but too wet to be a wetland. So we're always fighting canary grass. So we utilize this canary grass to transition, this triticale, to transition from canary grass into moist soils, into weeds, anything but canary grass, so it's less dense. So that's why we grow both. We had two products to work with. Back to logistical nightmare. Distribution was a challenge. Keeping it separated when I grew both products was also a challenge. Make sure we got it in the right semi-truck to the right seed cleaner. Okay, the next picture we have is a windrower. We hired this gentleman to come in and knock down all the grain for us so it would dry better. Where we live in Iowa, it's usually fairly wet this time of year, so we knew if we put the grain down, the weeds would dry out for us and the bugs would maybe get off of some of the plants, so that way we wouldn't be dealing with wet seed when we were trying to store it between storage and seed cleaning. What's awesome about this and kind of carry over to all the other people is it's not the first guy you talk to, it's the next guy that kind of gets us our story. So The reason we were able to find somebody to windrow, because there's not a lot of these around the neighborhood, there was a gentleman who wanted our straw bales. So I put him in charge of finding somebody to come windrow for us. So the gentleman, he's a cattleman, really had a strong desire for the bales, found a windrower. He makes the phone call, he pays the bill. We get all of the fields swathed and ready to go. And once I know they're starting to hit the ground, then I call our next people, which is the gentleman with the combines. So Adam is right on today with flipping slides. So thanks, Adam. So the two gentlemen that came and combined every crop we have, fortunately, one of them is my father-in-law. So we were able to coordinate a little help here. Things transition over time. We're in an area of fairly big ag, a row crop ag, just our local neighborhood. So there's not a lot of combines with pickup heads, but these guys love to buy combines, I think. So they'll buy a combine, match it up to a head, and come pick up grain off the ground for us. So in the 4 years, I think they've had 5 or 6 different combines show up. So they love doing it. Gives them something to do during this harvest season, test out kind of their backup or third combine actually, and it works great. They're kind of experts, so we really appreciate what they do there. The best combine, however, is a pull type combine, several decades old, and it actually gleans the seam much more clean than any of the newer style combines that we've utilized. And it's so clean, I don't think we would actually have to send it to a seed cleaner along the way. But it works great. These guys all coordinate with one another. They bring their own semis. They bring a tractor and a grain cart, and it kind of cuts us out of the loop. They do it at their pace, and it takes everything from laying on the ground and gives us close to a finished product. So here's a picture of the seed going into a grain cart. From my very first slide, we have fields all over the place, and not all of them are accessible for a semi truck to get in and out of. So we utilize a tractor and a grain cart, and another partner brings that over for us, a closer neighbor, and they throw the seed in there for us. Another good part about this, for anybody that's done it, is the seed likes to sweat and get hot touching that steel on a hot summer day. So we're able to take it and turn it over, load it into a semi. So instead of sitting stagnant, not getting any air, we're able to move the seed from this grain cart into our semis. And then when it leaves the semi, it usually gets moved one more time the next day or two, gives it a chance to dry out even more. But while it's being stored overnight, whether it's in a grain cart or a semi truck, because usually it takes a couple of days to get all this harvested. They usually don't combine until midday and go until it gets tough later in the afternoon or just too darn hot to be out. We use screw-in grain fans or bin fans. We screw those in and flip them on, and then we also have shoveled seed around to help it dry out. So we move into our local farmer here. This gentleman's fantastic. He's letting us know that seed came in under 8% for moisture, which was pretty awesome. This young gentleman and his dad cover crop about 1,200 acres of their own ground, and he was extremely interested in the project. Only job he had that day was to bring us the tractor and the grain cart. He showed up, and they watched until they were done combining. They had so much fun, and they were really integral and involved in what we were trying to accomplish. They gave great advice, and he really wanted to be one of our habitat lease tenants down the road, so he could grow the cover crop seed that they needed on their row crop acres on DNR ground at a lower rate, without having to take some of his own land out of production. And I kind of see that as our future spillover from our public lands into the private lands, is these farmers who can use our property to grow what they need instead of just corn and bean acres. Meet both of our goals. So after we have the seed loaded up, it is hauled to several different seed cleaners. I specifically have only been to places that have on-farm seed cleaning setups. And with that, they all do a fantastic job. Those old seed cleaners do an amazing job of separating the buds, the hulls, and any chaff out of the grain. Bill at the Prairie Resource Center, he sends his seed to a professional cleaner. I think I get off the hook a little bit because the professional guys didn't really have a timeline to be able to squeeze winter triticale in from all the other winter rye that they're doing. So one of my gentlemen switches from doing some oats locally to winter triticale, and then I think all of them also run their own soybeans through their cleaner for some cost savings. So it's kind of neat to see how these farmers are utilizing their same equipment multiple ways to improve their bottom lines and maybe change some things that take place on their own farms, and they're able to involve our operations in what they do. So we pay them a decent rate to clean and to bag. We use these bulk bags. This picture is from our first season, and the picture on the left is all the bags in my machine shed here at my headquarters. It kind of became a trouble to have to load and move all these. All of my colleagues would come to either my site or Bill's site. We would load and they would haul home the seed themselves. It took up a bunch of their time. It became quite inconvenient. So we go bulk bags because it's less expensive and it's way easier for the gentlemen and ladies that are bagging the seed for us, just to put it in a bulk bag as opposed to 50-pound bags. And it is easier when it gets applied, especially for the aerial applicators or for the commercial applicators, just to deal with these 40-unit bags instead of 50-pound bags. So the effort is a lot less. So currently 90% of what we grow is drop shipped from the seed cleaner. So it makes it a lot easier. We hire a third party to come in with their van, trailer, and semi. They take 20 bags and deliver them to the headquarters. So they may leave Butler County, Iowa, and drive over to just south of Dubuque, down to Lake Rathbun, and circle back and then make another trip to deliver more seeds. So it works out really well. So was it worth the effort? I say yes. So this is one year specifically, the current year. We grew about 70.5 acres. You can see several of our partners listed there that did parts of the job, the costs that we incurred. So we had brand new seed. The custom combine rate is an Iowa State University average for small grains. Trucking to cleaner varies depending on how far they need to go. We traded for some straw, but our total expense was around $12,000. And then to make it all worth our time, what we think the value was is we compared the quantity of seed we had total to what it would cost us if we needed to go purchase that seed from Albert Lee Seed House based on their fall 2023, excuse my slide, purchased price of $23.50 per bag. And that would have cost us $34,000 to do that. So considerable cost savings if we had to go buy the seed versus what our investment was to grow it and have it delivered locally. Next one, please, Adam. So as a whole, both the Prairie Resource Center and our own seed, we worked on 146.5 acres, 225,000 pounds of seed, and same thing at that Albert Lee seed price was about $95,000 worth of value. So if we wanted to go cover crop those same acres, it would cost our department, just shy of $100,000. So we want to have the cover crops on the landscape. We want to have the habitat benefits. So to do that, I feel strongly that this project worked really well for low impact, high results. And then I also got the habitat types I want on the landscape here at the Big Marsh Wildlife Area during the growing season. So there's benefits on the left of your screen and on the right. The general benefits are generally common, that we're going to leave that crop stand from fall all the way through harvest, which is good for water quality, soil quality, and soil health. The harvested grain saves us a bunch of money for future seed costs. And that includes both cover crop seed I think you went to 63 different areas on 20 wildlife management units. And then also for self-use to regrow new seed for next year. So we're able to use it both ways and kind of cut costs, even though we have purchased new seed more than once. So we can lengthen our cover crop possibilities by producing our own seed, not just from a monetary problem, but when the seed's available, I think it also forces us to utilize it because we have it ready to go. The wildlife benefits are that we have green browse source from fall through winter. So we have a place for deer to go browse, places to hunt. But a critical component is the nesting, the brood rearing cover. So we plant these fields, like I said, in a position next to where we know we have good pheasant and turkey populations. It gives them an alternative place to choose or select as high quality nesting site that won't be terminated and it won't be burned. And that's another thing we have going on within our areas is we do a lot of spring burning. So when we can plant these green fields and these early quick growing cool season plants, I can take off. So I see a question just popped up about after sunflowers. We grow sunflowers on most of our wildlife management areas for dove hunting opportunities. So after sunflower means that the first week of August, we start to manipulate the sunflowers, which is typically mowing the sunflowers down as they mature to scatter seed on the ground. The seed then attracts all kinds of different birds and wildlife, one of those being the mourning dove, which has a hunting season on September 1st. So as the birds utilize this area, it is bare. And the last thing we want is bare ground from August all the way till the following spring. So we use that as cover crop, or we use that as our next year's seed growing opportunity. So we balance where we plant this either into a sunflower field, our tenant soybean fields, or sometimes we have grown production fields back to back on top of one another, which we know isn't the best, but that's what we had available. Okay, next, please. So the ways we get the seed on the ground, once it's to all my colleagues, some of them drill by themselves, like with this smaller Great Plains drill, and that looks like they're going into a sunflower field specifically. I'm gonna check my time. Okay, next slide. We did pay for aerial application. I'd say about a big third of all of our acres where our seed goes ends up being applied aerially. And I think everybody really enjoys that because we only handle the seed once and we pass it on. The left picture is a Polaris Ranger with a Vicon, and one of my colleagues would have been putting the seed on. And on the right is the guys from Northwest Iowa enjoying watching the airplane show of seed application. So our methods are aerial, drilled, and broadcast. Similarly, about a third. I know that doesn't exactly add up. It depends on what the need was. So in 4 years, we've covered 7,200 acres. Of those 7,200 acres, and some of the pushback we've received is that when we say cover crop, people jump to a crop that's terminated in the spring. But anywhere between 60 to sometimes 80% of what we share with all my colleagues across the wildlife management areas is not terminated. So you can see here it's 4 to 3. So about just short of 60% is not terminated, which means we get to gain the greatest amount of wildlife benefit out of our acres that way. So we're not inviting turkeys and pheasants to nest into something that will be terminated. We're promoting wildlife to use that. And the other thing is once it stands past harvest and usually is still available the next fall for winter cover and for a winter food source. Got another slide, Adam? So our season 2 results, our 2021 year, we spent out of the grant $10,000 to have it aerial applied at about $15 per acre. We covered 2,000 acres that year at 63 different wildlife management areas, which I think is fantastic. Like I said, over half is usually not terminated. And then the types of fields it goes into, and I'll be quick, corn and beans, and then the reed, canary grass, and sunflowers are 2 management choices that we make to fight that reed, canary grass and to cover the sunflowers. So those are usually on the land that the state employees are spending the time on, but the corn and soybean acres are typically the acres that the tenant has an impact on more so than wildlife management staff members. So the sprayed sod, I believe, was an opportunity to kill off like brome grass, grow a cool season crop to fight that, and then it was going to be transitioned into a native prairie stand. And is that the last one we have, Adam? I want to thank you all for our opportunity to speak to you today. Adam and my contact information is there. Always feel free to reach out to either one of us, and we will gladly answer any questions that you have. A half an hour is not enough time to present on all this information, but thank you very much. Matt, back to you.
All right. Thanks, Justin and Adam. And we've gotten some questions in, but feel free, folks, if you have questions, please type them in. All right. I like those pictures. I hate to move off of those pictures. Those are great of both of you there, enjoying the wildlife. But if you're on here and want to earn a CCA CEU, please email Alena Whitaker, ALENAW at iastate.edu by 5 o'clock today with your name, the name you entered to watch the webinar, and your CCA number. Again, Alena Whitaker, ALENAW at iastate.edu. Next slide, Adam. If you watch this webinar live and are willing to fill out the voluntary demographic survey, we would greatly appreciate it. This is a form to gather information for USDA-funded programs. So only one survey response is needed for 2024 webinars. You can go to iowalearningfarms.org/survey or scan the QR code. We'd greatly appreciate if you've done that. Again, only one response is needed for all 2024 webinars. And then a plug for the webinar next week. Dr. Richard Roth is going to be on still talking cover crops in a way on cereal rye, but how can cereal rye affect nitrogen cycling and crop production? Dr. Roth is a new extension, or relatively new, within the last year, extension nitrogen specialist at Iowa State University in the Department of Agronomy. So encourage you all to tune in for that, or let folks know that you think might be interested. Okay, there was one question. Okay, we have a few questions. First, can you mention what your seeding rate was again for where you're growing the cover crop for seed?
Yes, sir. So for seed production, we were recommended that we grow basically 2 bushels per acre.
Okay.
So we shoot for about 115. I know one year we were well past that at about 120 bushels per acre.
Yeah.
We do that to fight competition.
Okay.
We also are growing kind of in the floodplain, so we do have some risk of flooding or drown out, and that would also affect some of the results we've had for yield loss. We lost parts of some fields due to flooding. But the application when it comes to aerial seeding or to the actual cover cropping is anywhere from 40 to 50 or 60 pounds per acre. So it depends on what the aerial application rate really is. So the difference, though, is when we're fighting reed canary grass, most of that goes on at 75 pounds. We kind of split the difference and try to get some more seeds in the ground that way. But the actual cover cropping is put on at the standard rate.
Okay. Yeah, and this is, okay, can you describe a little bit more on how this method is used to control that canary grass?
Absolutely. So we battle canary grass all the time because we just happen to have a lot of land that falls in a transitional zone. And that's the reason the state owns this property, is it's marginal ground anyway. And to fight the canary grass, which is too ranked to be a really strong habitat, we want to get rid of it. So we allow somebody, whether it's our tenant or a third party who generally pays us to do this, we let them come in and hay that grass after the primary nesting period. So generally, depending on whose terms used, July 15th at the earliest, August 1st at the earliest on other properties. They hay, bale, remove. We have a new green up in late August or early September. We utilize that same farmer or tenant to either spray it for us or provide the herbicide to spray that with glyphosate at 1 quart or 2 quarts per acre. And then we drill our triticale into that. So we try to kill top kill at the best that reed canary grass, and then get that immediate flush to outrun and outcompete the canary grass that is trying to resprout or regerminate. Because we've learned that if we turn that canary grass sod under, all we get is more canary grass. Yeah. But if we're only cutting a slit in it at every 7.5 inches, we get a new plant that can choke out canary grass. So we know it's not a win forever, but we do know that we get a different alternative habitat for 1 to 3 years before the canary grass is so thick that we can't win again. And then we go attack it another time.
Okay.
And we have willing parties that love to take our canary grass. It's generally pretty green and lush that time of year. They take it home. Some of them use that instead of cornstalk bales for fall or late winter feeding. They'll run it through a grinder, and their cattle don't seem to complain about canary grass as an alternative to a cornstalk bale because the
Okay.
price is right generally.
Okay.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of the gist of that. Does that answer the
Yep.
question well
Yeah.
enough?
Yeah, that's really useful to know. It expanded my information too, so I'm glad somebody asked that question. Um, what have you found the most efficient method of seeding? I think that's for the cover crops where you talked about um, the different seeding that you were
It
utilizing.
all depends on the location. So I have a lot of small fields, and it would be extremely inconvenient to aerial apply those locations. But parts of our properties in southern Iowa and some of western Iowa, there's very little for trees in the way. So aerial application works really well even on smaller fields of 5 and 10 acres. Down at Lake Red Rock, I know they aerial apply quite a bit. The smaller fields, northeast Iowa, tight, not straight, things like that. Broadcasting is still probably the most efficient because we can do it over top of standing soybeans or corn or after corn. It's just the quickest way of getting those cover crops applied. Drilling just seems to take more time, even though I personally like the results with that seed to soil contact the best.
This one kind of gets at Adam, something we were talking about yesterday. Somebody asked, are you expanding for next year? Do you need additional operators? And how can we learn about potential possibilities?
Yeah, I think that's what we're trying to figure out. So this year, the season 5 is our biggest production season yet, with the inclusion of the Red Rock crop share idea. And I think that's with this 3-year sub award coming to an end. I think that's where we've done this now. We'll have 5 years under our belt. Obviously, we've shown the value of the seed and how much it saves. We've kind of hit a sweet spot. And Justin, you can speak to this about the units that request the seed and how they use it. We've kind of hit a good mark there. And so we just need to figure out the next steps as this funding source ends, what funding sources are available to try to continue this, and is there still a value to keep things going? So those are the things that we'll be talking about this summer and fall. And then as far as getting involved, Justin, I'll turn it over to you for some of those thoughts.
Perfect. So our habitat lease agreement program works through a beginning farmer. So the most of our acres are utilized that way. So on a 3 or 5 year cycle, depending on the land manager at that site, whether it's the biologist or a wildlife technician, every 3 or 5 years they become available. And we try to coordinate our land use choices with what also works well with our tenants. So we may select certain fields or certain things, whether it's corn or beans or small grains or hay. But because we're able to produce this cover crop seed, we're trying to find a way to either rent the ground and partner that way, or have a crop sharing agreement where we get some of the grain and the tenant would also be able to utilize the grain or the straw or the entire crop and manage that together. So there is potential. I would recommend you reach out to your local wildlife unit staff members. Iowa DNR has a website specifically for wildlife, and all the biologists are listed on there on a map. We've kind of hit a maximum use because of my colleagues can only find so much land that they can apply these cover crops on. Even though we farm so many acres, not all of them are fit for cover crops. Not all of them, maybe they're left 10% standing for food plots. Some of them are hay. Some of them go idle occasionally. We're also transitioning out a lot of our fields on every wildlife area, transition out to be native habitat, native prairie typically, or they're being transitioned into a tree planting. So most every one of us as staff members are reducing agriculture all the time. But we do know that there's a role of agriculture within our wildlife management areas. So it's hard to expand. The Southwest District mandates that cover crops are utilized on all of the acres that they have. It's just a different type of land, different farming. They have built their leases just a little bit differently to include that. And so not every acre is equal. Not every floodplain is equal. Not all things are highly erodible. and we utilize the best strategies for conservation practices anyway on every acre we do have. So sometimes cover crops aren't necessarily the best for what the next field is. So that's kind of the long and short of that. I hope I answered your question well enough there. We cannot sell. I noticed one of those.
Okay.
We are not allowed to sell seed as the state growing it. So no, we can't do it that way. We've kind of, like I said, we've reached our maximum. And two parts of that is we don't fertilize, and we haven't used any pesticide or herbicide to like enhance or influence these production fields, because we kind of meet our goal already. But if we were to reduce or not be able to participate with an outside funding stream, I think instead of growing 70 acres, I could be really successful on 25 to 40 acres. And then utilize some fertilizer and boost my yield, and then kind of meet our goals that way. But I personally like all the fields around my wildlife area, so I don't want to take that away either.
That was probably why the yield of the rye and triticale might be a little depressed compared to what you aren't applying any nitrogen inputs into that system.
Correct. And then especially the years where we doubled back, we knew we weren't going to have near the nutrients to work with. Yeah. But we accepted that as we moved on. And then the same thing, we're at the mercy of other people. We have fantastic partners working us through all of this, but I fill 2 semi-trucks. Bill fills 2 semi-trucks. Do we really need a third one sitting around or tying up time and space of other people? If we were our own entity and we had on-farm storage like most folks do, a bin with a drying floor and a fan, that time of year you have a place to store your grain. We don't have that, and we really hate asking somebody else to do too much extra for us. And I say that because with the winter triticale, we kind of get pushed to the end of the line of the cleaning and process. So my stuff does sit in a truck longer or gets moved around a few more times before it's ready to be put through the process. And I just don't like asking people to do too many things for us. And when you do, could start to add up to being a little more expensive, and you also risk failure. So we don't want to lose a crop once we have it combined.
And one point to add on the selling piece, we do get a seed permit from IDOLs just as an abundance of caution, even though we don't sell any. So to be compliant with the seed dealer laws and things like that, we do get all the seed tested at Iowa State to make sure that it's weed free, so we're not spreading Palmer around the countryside, that type of thing. So we do all the necessary things where we could sell it, but we definitely won't do that. But we do all the things just to ensure that the seed's of high quality and that it's weed free. So we do have that paperwork.
Right. Great. And everything we plant is appropriate. So we're not breaking any trade laws or anything like that. Okay. So we follow all recommendations, and we've talk to seed houses to make sure that we are producing appropriately and following all the rules and regulations with that.
There was another question on canary grass. On canary grass, can wet prairie be seeded in or after a particular number of hay and spray cycles?
I would certainly think so. So what we do regularly is if we're going to skip a cycle or move past that first cycle of triticale, so I guess I'll give you an example. We hay, we spray glyphosate, plant winter triticale. The following year, we actually have allowed our tenant to come in and take that triticale crop off after the nesting period. They bale it, walk away, and you have fairly bare ground then. And then we would spray regrowth, and you could probably plant that fall dormant or the following spring dormant when the ground is applicable. Another thing we do is we spray a Mazapir, which Polaris would be a trade name for that. Imazapyr also fights canary grass pretty hard and gives it second mode of action. However, it seems like it stays around a little bit longer. So if you were going to use Imazapyr, I'd make sure to give it 3 to 6 months extra. That way your prairie plants wouldn't be fighting against a pesticide that it couldn't get through. Okay. But it is effective at fighting canary grass. That second mode of action we found to be really, really imperative if we want to smack canary grass. But then we know we're going to have weeds. So that's another part of our thing is we don't mind weeds in what we do because it increases the amount of diversity, the amount of bugs, and the amount of seed source for all the wildlife, game and non-game that do move into these areas. So we manage a little bit differently than most people do. we don't want to have, like Adam said, the wrong weeds. We don't like to have thistle, but we don't mind pigweeds and ragweeds and smartweed. So we're a little
Nope.
bit different in our management.
No palmer, no thistles.
Correct.
Yeah.
We're real
All
good
right.
about not growing those.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. I think those are the questions. Um, kind of one item, Alena Whitaker, ALENAW at iastate.edu. If you need a CCA credit, please tune in next week for Dr. Richard Roth on cover crops and nitrogen cycling. And Adam and Justin, I will give you all the last word. This was super informative. I find it really interesting and fascinating. I learned a lot about reed canary control. That was probably not what others got out of it, but I was fascinated with the growth for cover crop seed, but another way to that these cover crops and growth cover crop seed could be an effective tool as we think about land management. So the last word, Adam and Justin. Sorry, I
Adam,
didn't
you go
mean to go
first.
on.
Okay. Yeah, no, just thanks for the opportunity. It's been great we haven't been able to, we just haven't, I probably haven't thought about it, but we haven't been able to share our story, with all the 4 years under our belt now. So it's been nice to have that opportunity. And as you can see, the cooperating farmers are a huge part of this. And we learned a ton from them as far as how we were producing and how we could go about this, and then being creative with potential crop share opportunities and working with them. So partnerships, as I know, it's always a popular word, but it was key here. And then with this, we're still learning, and so we invite any feedback and questions after this. If there's other opportunities for us to tell our story that people would think it's of interest, we're happy to share the story with others. And because it is public land, and everyone should be interested in what we're doing with it. So, Justin, to you.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for the opportunity to share today. And what I think I take away the most is that our little small scale operation of growing cover crop seed can really be transferred over to anybody that wants to do it and expand the use of cover crops on their own land. I think all of our partners do use cover crops and maybe use them more now because we've communicated with them. So it's grown even more. And like I said, we work with 10 or 12 different people. And I'd like to speak on behalf of Bill and the Prairie Resource Center. And I'd like to thank them for their participation in this too, because their main goals is growing prairie seed for public lands. And they've diversified a little bit to make this program work. So I'd like to thank Bill for all of his effort too. So thank you very much for having me today.
Yeah. Thank you both.